Thank you very much. And let me just respond to some parts of the debate, and in particular to the remarks we've just held about the R100 programme. It may be worth reminding members the 1998 Scotland Act at Schedule 5 as the specific reservations that we are not responsible for have two headings: communications and the internet. So where we are moving ahead to implement high-speed broadband to every premise in Scotland that wants it, the member will not. We are picking up the failure of the UK government to deliver on its legal responsibilities. And the UK government is only contributing 4%. 4%. 1/25 of the cost. Now, let me move on to more interesting things, to be blunt. And let's just talk about quantum computing, Mr. Arthur. It is, of course, related to the quantum excitation of the Higgs field, which affects the operation of the Higgs boson, which is a particularly interesting subatomic particle with a spin of -0.5, etc., which has a referential between two instances at a distance that is not constrained by the speed of light. It's a unique particle. And it's worth saying, of course, that there is a connection to Edinburgh, in that Professor Higgs is Edinburgh. Similarly, it might be worth saying artificial intelligence really sprang from the work of Professor Wolfson at Heriot-Watt in the 1970s. And I tried to find at the weekend my book. It's somewhere in a box in my garage, and I just couldn't find it. But he designed a manual computer that was a self-learning machine that was constructed of matchboxes. It was mechanical, not electronic, and a very interesting thing it was. So that's quite an important thing. And Daniel Johnson as well may care to note that algorithms have been around for a while. The first algorithm was created by Ada Lovelace in the mid-1800s. She was the first person to come up with that. And let me just conclude my preliminary remarks by saying I actually don't think this debate is about artificial intelligence at all. But that's just a quibble I have. I think it's artificial learning, because intelligence is about being able to invent, what learning is enables you to innovate, and computers can do that. I'm not at all sure they can actually invent. And by the way, a lot of the debate is about data. Well, equally, some of the concerns, they're not particularly new. And I'm going to quote that most reliable of sources, myself, in that 45 years ago, in a talk that I gave, I wrote, there is talk of data banks and the undesirable uses to which they can be put. George Orwell casts a long shadow. Now, I wasn't alone 45 years ago in saying that. Let me be absolutely clear, Presiding Officer. But many of the things we're discussing today are not particularly new. But what has happened, of course, is that we now have the computer power and ubiquity that is having a profound effect on many parts of our economy. But it's just another industrial revolution, which will eliminate some jobs and create many more, as previous ones have. China and the US are probably the leaders in this. The US is a country where they're very good at creating companies and creating individual wealth. We can debate that on another occasion. But China is a great technological innovator. And I think those are complementary strengths. The UK, I very much welcome the fact that the UK government has produced an AI sector deal, leaving aside that I don't think it's AI. But it is interesting that in reading the AI sector deal, the referenced companies in there are almost all companies that have come to the UK. Good, welcome, that's excellent. But they're not leaving the intellectual property that comes from that effort in the UK. It'll be benefit of jurisdictions elsewhere. And I think we certainly have to step up to the mark in improving our own education. Emma Harper talked about the use of AI in health. And I think that is absolutely correct. Making services more cost-effective, improving patient treatment and outcomes, but also speeding up diagnoses by learning from information that's been available from previous human-based diagnoses, automating the process, speeding things up, but still leaving the oversight of the humans and the responsibility with humans. And I think that's very important. The Industrial Centre for Artificial Intelligence Research and Digital Diagnostics was launched last year at the University of Glasgow. So here in Scotland, we have got our own individual contribution using AI in a way that will benefit society as a whole. We will have new tools, of course we will. We will be able to intelligently deal with the huge challenge of climate change, and AI can help us on that. We already have, leaving aside autonomous vehicles, we already have AI in vehicles that are reducing the consumption of fuel because they use it in a more intelligent way. So public transportation can be improved by the application of AI, both in individual vehicles, but overall in controlling the network and making better use of the network. Because what AI can do is it amplifies the human skills. It does not replace the human skills. And our job is to make sure that we always know where the data we're using has come from and protect it. We always make sure the paramountcy of the human being remains. Presiding Officer.